For a candidate, a voter, a campaign volunteer or contributor, or all of the above, thank you for engaging in our democratic process in DuPage. We in Indivisible DuPage are proud to have hosted a series of 3 candidate forums, giving voice to many DuPage candidates and races. We will review some of the key takeaways a little bit later and welcome you to add your own. We come together tonight to congratulate ourselves. So yay, congratulations. Enjoy some much needed levity, and then to do the real work of planning our next moves. I'd now like to introduce and welcome Linda Callis to make the toast. So please have your beverage of choice ready.
Okay, everybody raise their glasses if you have something. So to the candidates who won their races, congratulations. And whether you are starting in a new position or continuing in your current position, we wish you success. We know you will do your best for your community. To the candidates who were not successful this go around, thank you so much for stepping up to run. It's not easy to run for office, but we can only make progress when people are willing to do so. Current office holders should not feel complacent. To those who made calls, wrote postcards, dropped literature, or donated money, thank you for supporting these great candidates. And finally, to all the voters, thank you for being engaged citizens. As you've heard many times, democracy is not a spectator sport. Cheers.
Cheers. Okay, so we toasted. We said we'd toast and we did. So good for us. I would now like to welcome Rick Gieser, who was just reelected to the Carroll Stream Board of Trustees, to introduce our special guest for the evening's celebration. Rick, can you take it away?
I will. Thank you very much, Flo. Thanks for letting me be a part of the event tonight. And as we mentioned before, thank you and congratulations to all who participated in the election earlier this month. It takes guts. I've been on both sides, so it's always better when you win, but we need to participate, and I thank you all for participating. But the real reason I'm here is to introduce my friend for the comedy performance tonight. Patty Vasquez will be joining us. Patty and I have been friends for nearly 20 years. She's an activist, she's a candidate, she's a comedian, she's an actress, she's a writer, she's a broadcaster, and so much more. You've seen her perform on comedy stages, such as Zany's Comedy Club, where we first got to meet each other. You've seen her on TV as Nurse Ryan on Chicago Fire. You can hear her regularly on WCPT radio. Who listens to WCPT? I know a lot of you do. And she currently serves as the Deputy Policy Advisor to Comptroller of Mendoza. So she's helping us right here in DuPage County. So please raise your glasses again, and please welcome my dear friend, Patty Vasquez.
Cheers and congratulations to you, Rick, and everybody else who was successful in their races. As a candidate who was not successful, I do love that. That's what we say. I was not successful because we don't like to say that we lost. But we know that we won, especially with so many great volunteers. And listening to Rick give my resume, I'm like, I should probably pick something. But that's the thing about the work that we do is it's a little bit of everything. You know, it takes a little bit of knowledge, of experience, of knowing people, of understanding what people need. And so I grew up in Chicago. The big thing about being in comedy is that you're supposed to move to Los Angeles, and that's where your career really takes off. And I can't, or New York, you go to New York, but they don't like Midwesterners. If we smile, they think we're stupid. In California, they're like, oh my God, how can you live in Chicago? Oh my God, it's so cold there. Oh my God, I can't live there. Oh my God, it's so cold. I was there one time, my eyelashes froze together. I don't even know how that's possible. And I was like, yeah, I can't talk to you. Have fun falling into the ocean because I'm going to push you. When you look at all the stories that come out of California, when it comes to nature and environment, they have mudslides, They have earthquakes. They are falling into the ocean. It's like, it's so God doesn't love them as much as the rest of the country. It's like we're trying to shake them loose. We're like, get off of us. And the thing about California is, and you know this, they have fire seasons. Fire seasons. And I often feel like people don't hear that well enough. It's a season of fire. It's a season when all of your stuff just goes poof. I've never understood how you get ready for fire season. Do you drink a lot of water when you smell smoke? Do you go out for a fireproof poncho and just hope for the best? And I know that they have solutions for fire season. They do the best they can. It's hard to contain. They lose 250,000 of acres every year to fire season. They use water to fight fire. They use chemicals to fight fire. They use goats to fight fire. That's true. That's a true story. They use goats. I'm not making that up. They not like a chemical, not it's goats. And they don't throw them on the fire because that would be cruel and ineffective. I know I've done the research. When you do comedy, people want to come up to you afterwards and be like, I don't think that's true. No. They use the goats to eat all the dry grassland and shrubs on the mountainsides. So when the fire arrives, it has less to consume. But that seems like a lot of pressure for your goat. I don't know if you've seen a goat eat. They're not in a hurry. You can go to a petting zoo. If you don't believe me, the next time you can go out in public and go to a petting zoo, buy some of that little feed in your hand for a quarter, click, click, click. You get some feed. Try feeding it to a goat. They're like, they're not in a hurry. I guess maybe when they're in California, maybe they smell the fire coming. Maybe they see it and they pick up their pace. Like, I'm just saying there's a really thin line between being your goat being a hero and a gyro. That's all I'm saying. I'm gonna long way for one of my favorite jokes. Can you imagine? By the way, the goats, I wonder if they like stand there and go, I smell barbecue. I need my pita bread, my tzatziki sauce. I have to stop for a second because I forgot to ask you guys all a favor. If I know that you have you all on mute because you don't want to distract. Do me a favor though, for people who are on screen, if you could don't unmute yourself. You don't have to. I appreciate that. But I have a son who is nonverbal, and this is applause in sign language. So I'm gonna test all of you. If you go like this, if you're happy with something, just go like this. I've done a lot of these shows, and usually there's like one person like randomly laughing, and all I'm getting right now is like, that was interesting, which is fine. We're all zoomed out. We're all, in these spaces that aren't familiar. Believe me, when I can see you all in public, if I get a chance to meet you, I will hug you uncomfortably until you ask me to stop. So I look forward to gathering people. It's, we all feed off the energy of others. When I talk about, traveling, it's hard to remember getting on a plane, isn't it? I don't know if anyone has, I haven't been oh my God, one of the last places I went was London. I love to see the London Bridge. Anyway, I got distracted. I don't miss trying to find bargain flights, right? Cause you're always trying to like, well, what has Spirit got for me? I'll tell you what Spirit has for you. They have seats that don't even match each other. They charge you for your check bag, for your carry-on. They charge you for both sides of the seatbelt. You get one side and then you got to just hold on to it. I'll tell you something. When the flight attendant comes around and gives you the emergency instructions, there's a reason they call it Spirit Airlines. She's like, in case of emergency. If you have never flown on Spirit Airlines, I'm gonna give you an example of how the plane sounds when it's pushing away from the jetway. This is what it sounds like. I'm sorry, but that is a plane that doubts itself. That is a plane that is telling you exactly how it feels. I don't know. It is, I'm not going to miss flying for a while. I miss traveling. I tend to drive more. One of my favorite places to go is Tennessee. There's a Zany's Comedy Club down there too. And I always drive. I take my family. And the thing about it, as you go into certain parts of the country, the billboards are different. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. Maybe you've been through Indiana on I-65 where it says, hell is real. And I always want to put an O at the end of it. says just say hello is real. And in Tennessee, you know, we're flatlanders. If you grew up here, we're not the best at those mountain drives and blind curves. And the, let me say, the more energetic Christians in the South really spend a lot of money on their billboards. And there was one, I came around this blind curve at night, and this billboard was bright. It was the kind of thing where I was like, oh, this is it. I'm going towards the light. And it said, prepare to meet thy maker. That's intense. It just seems like it would be more Christian to say, slow down. That seems more helpful to folks. And that's all I'm saying. I do miss traveling the South. I did okay in Tennessee. I worked a lot in Alabama. In Alabama, they have their highway signs say I-65 South, and they hate the Yankees so much. In the opposite direction, it says I-65. You're going the wrong way. And I apologize if we have any folks who are from the South or have family. It was always an explanation of who I am and why I look the way I do. Like that's not a stretch of the truth at all. I was in Alabama, and this guy came up to me and goes, "Hey gal, what nationality are you? Because you look different." And I was like, "Well, I'm actually an American because that's my nationality." I knew what he meant, but when you're asked these questions and you've done it long enough, you like to kind of pull them in a little bit. And he's like, no, you know what I mean. And I'm like, no, I don't know what you mean. And he's like, well, I mean, where are your people from? Chicago. No, I mean, like, where are you from? Like, where are you from? Like we're, you know, traveling across the country like gypsies or something, and we can't have like one place that looks like me. I'm we're just moving across the country. And it's hard because I'm proud of who I am. The only reason I hesitate when I tell people about my ethnic background is that they use the information to say cruel, insulting things. Because I'm Irish and I am Mexican of origin. That's my great grandmother Maggie O'Doyle came here at the turn of the century in the 1900s, and my mother came from Coahuila, Mexico. So that's who I am. But when I say I'm Irish and Mexican, people have to yell things like, "Well, then get drunk and make me a taco." When I was in Alabama, someone yelled out, "Well, that makes you a leprechaun," which was fun. Mostly because I have been Irish and Mexican my entire life, and I didn't think of that one. That's why it bothered me. I'm proud of who I am. I just, when I say that I'm Irish and Mexican, people just say the most ignorant things. And I think I've absorbed enough of it. It's part of why I'm a comic, because you may as well put up a cape of deflection. And I remember in Alabama one time, I was there for 3 weeks in a row, and someone said, when I said I was Irish and Mexican, they go, "What'd you do that for?" Like I chose it. Like I don't know. And I don't know if he meant like, why'd I tell them? Or if he believed in that sort of metaphysical idea that souls choose their parents. Although I don't think that they have enough books left after burnings that they're saying that. But I think my favorite question was, Irish and Mexican, how did that happen? And right, and they made it sound like it was a factory accident. Like the rig blew up and it got Irish and Mexican all over me. Oh man, look at that. Can't get rid of it. I'm proud of who I am, and so much has happened for people of color, and this week has been such a huge victory that having these conversations my entire life have been hard. When I tell people that growing up, I grew up in an all white neighborhood. I was the only Mexican American kid in my class, and in second grade someone called me a chink. And that's harsh, it's a hard word, but this is the thing about comedy, you have to tell the truth. And I didn't know what that word meant. I went home and was like, "Mommy, am I a chink?" And she said, "No, no, mija, you are a wetback, a beaner. Speak is not accurate." And she wanted me to know the words I was going to hear for the rest of my life, because people don't have a filter. They say whatever they want to say. I went to a friend's house when I was in grade school, and her dad kept looking at me, and finally he said the same thing the guy in Alabama said, "Where are your folks from?" And I was like, "We live on Northwest Highway." And he goes, "No, I mean, like, where are they from?" And I said, "Well, my mom's from Mexico," because I knew that at that age. I was like, I knew that my mom was from somewhere else, not Chicago. And he goes, "Mexico?" And I said, yeah, and my dad's Irish. Oh, well, you're okay then. And then he said, how did your dad get a Mexican one? And all I could think was, I imagine my dad being in a department store and there was like a clearance rack. And he was like, well, I don't want an Asian one or an Italian one. I guess I'm stuck with the Mexican one. This is a kind of this is part of why I started using humor, because if someone's going to say something mean or I don't understand it, I'm going to turn it right back on them, which got me in a lot of trouble in grade school. But it is how I deal with things. You know, I saw on the flyer today that it's about positive energy, and it's not always about confrontation or trying to beat someone over the head that they're wrong. So things happen along the way, and you know, you grow in so many different on so many different paths. I have two boys. My son Griffin is smarter than I will ever be. And I don't say that like my son's smart and no. My son Griffin was tested in 4th grade and they said he was reading at the senior level of high school, or seniors are reading at the 4th grade level. I might not have read the whole thing. Rick will tell you I'm a little bit of a gist reader. If it's more than a couple sentences long, I might miss a word or two. But he is a remarkable young man. And I say that now because he is now 17 years old. He is about to go into his senior year of high school, finishing it. I mean, this is so crazy. Can you guys imagine being in your any time in high school or any point of childhood and that we weren't able to be around each other? I will say, I was wondering if the happiest people during this pandemic are the fathers of teenage girls. They have had a year of a break. Not having to worry about that. I am so proud of Griffin. He really is remarkable. And I'll give you an example. When he was 7 years old, if any of you listened to WGN radio for a long time, if you ever listened to Steve Cochran's show years ago, there was a woman named Christine Bloomer, the wine diva. She passed away when Griffin was little, and I was absolutely devastated. And Griffin was trying to come to terms with it. And I said, sweetie, we will always have dessert first, because Christine said life's too short. You should have dessert first. And he was still having trouble. He goes, you know what I think, mommy? I think life is like a boat with no oars. And sometimes you got to ride that storm out and see where you turn up. He was 7. I was like, I don't even know why you're talking to me. I'm gonna have to go to therapy for a few weeks. But this, sweetie, that's gonna look really good on Twitter. Hashtag Griffin says. And he is the best big brother to his little brother, Declan. If you can hear a squeaking noise in the back, there is a therapy swing in my basement where I do all of my Zoom meetings and shows. And Declan is 15 years old. He was born with something called a corpus callosum disorder. And when we talk about the work that I do now and the advocacy, this little boy inspires me. I've always loved politics and government. I've always thought that we can be there for each other in so many different ways. But Declan has taught me that it is important to make sure that Illinois is doing better. Declan was not breathing when he was born. He was very ill. They told me that they weren't sure that he would survive. And if he did, he might never walk or talk or surpass the intellectual ability of a 2-year-old. Declan is, but what they couldn't say is your life is going to be bigger. Your life is going to be joyful. The milestones that you meet are going to be the most incredible victories. And you're going to meet bigger jerks than you ever thought. Along the way, because you have people who stare, they have questions. You know, he sometimes has to be in a wheelchair to keep him safe. And moms will come up to me because they're like, how old is your son? He's still in a stroller. It looks like a stroller. He's such a big boy. You should have him running around. Why is your son still in a stroller? You should let him run around. And my reaction after a while was like, what are you talking about? That's my husband. That's always been the way I deflect and absorb and try to help other people, is like, you know what? I'm not going to be mean to you, but I might tell you kind of cross the line of privacy. And I just want to say before I go, I thank you so much for having me tonight and for inviting me. I did run for office, and I have to say the work of volunteers and people who decide to run, it's incredible. Cynicism and apathy are easy, but they burn shorter than the commitment to democracy, to fairness, to doing better for other people. And that's why I'm so proud to have been with you guys today. Thank you for having me. I wish you all the best of luck. And I look forward to working with you someday. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patty. We definitely needed a time to have some levity and some celebration. And here's to you. Thank you
Cheers.
again.
Thank you. Be well.
Okay, so now we're fortified with the ability to move on ahead, and we're happy to have some visuals here that Lorena put together. We kind of wanted to take a little time to consider what we've all been through during this this past election, and thought we could begin with by reviewing some key election season takeaways. And this is by no means an exhaustive list, and we welcome you when we're done with this to contribute your own ideas as well and your impressions. So we will ask you to raise your hands, and we will hopefully get to as many of you as we can. So we wanted to start with acknowledging some of the issues that we face during this election time. And certainly one of them that has been concerning to us is the low voter turnout. So we did see less than 17%. You can see the numbers here. Less than 17%, those of us who ran and campaigned and contributed and volunteered to campaigns certainly feel that the efforts we put into those races might have yielded a larger turnout from voters. So if anyone has something to contribute along those lines, especially thoughts of how we can make that better in the future, that would certainly be an interesting conversation. We wanted to acknowledge that in November, we were able to, in DuPage County, flip two important boards. One is the county board itself, from Republican to Democrat, and also the Forest Preserve Board. And in this election, we were able to impact the balance of power on the College of DuPage board, which has been under control by a very conservative group of trustees who have impeded a lot of progress and at the college. And we are hopeful that we will be able to make inroads there. When it comes to townships, I think many of us will agree that the township story was one of the biggest stories in our county this time around. There were many Democrats challenging Republicans who have been long entrenched in township government. And I know for myself and for many people that I've spoken with, that we all got a tremendous education about what townships do and about do nothing townships across the county. And this story is not over. And certainly kudos to Lyle, which has made inroads in the Lyle Township. And we are hoping, looking forward, that we will be able to have a larger progressive membership on township boards, because as we are learning, they are important to the quality of our lives. On the municipal level, we did see mayors and village board trustee positions either re-elected or newly elected for Democrats, and that has been heartening. School boards were especially contentious in many municipalities, especially regarding the focus on reopening issues and also those issues of diversity and inclusion. Would be interesting to hear from people who were involved more directly in those campaigns. And then certainly any other highlights that anyone has to offer. let's see, I might have a couple of other things. Do we have a slide on campaign strategies? Yeah. Okay, so how did we all pull this off during a pandemic? As a new candidate myself, I thought that the petitioning phase would be the hardest part of the campaign. And boy, was I wrong. I thought once we got through filling up our petitions, the rest of it would be easier. And certainly that was not the case. We did see a lot of Twitter storms and a lot of activity on social media. Many candidates and their campaign supporters got better and better and clearer about how to use social media. And we were heartened by online forums and the opportunities that were afforded by Indivisible Illinois and other organizations. We also saw that several candidates used postcards, which we have all come to realize have a very special role to play in campaigns these days. And some of us were able to leverage the use of postcards for hard to reach doors. And that has been especially helpful in locations with large apartment buildings and locations where it's just more difficult to gain access to voters. We also did a large amount of field work during COVID, extremely challenging to decide how to approach people at their doors. A lot of lit dropping went on, but many of us realized that lit dropping was not a substitute for face-to-face door knocking. And it does appear, it'd be interesting to hear what other people have to say about this, that at the point that our campaigns were taking off, a lot of people were ready to talk at their doors. People were just really eager to talk. So wearing your mask and keeping your social distancing did seem to be effective in encouraging voters to put their ideas out there. And that would be interesting to hear people's experiences. What else do we have? Examples of things to improve on, future work, we'll say. We know that we have had some opportunity for candidate training, and we know that there will be more campaign school sessions going forward. And maybe we can hear about that as well. We are all getting better and better with data sharing across campaigns and also across the county. Many of us are precinct committee people, and we have had the opportunity to learn how to use data sharing, learn how to use Vote Builder. Kind of a clunky tool, but one that does give us the opportunity to access voters and to share our impressions about the people that we have come in contact with, which is really important in future elections. Fundraising, I guess the township races were the ones that were quite difficult and challenging with respect to all the money that went into those Republican township races. So that was a difficulty that, money isn't everything, but, it can help. So it'd be interesting to hear about that as well. And then, of course, what we said before about voter turnout. So maybe we can open it up. I talked about hand raising, but I think maybe we do have some comments in the chat. Lorena, have you been looking at it, or do you want me to do it?
Yeah, there were some comments in the chat. I would welcome the folks who made them, like Mark and Maury, to unmute yourselves and share with the group or anyone else.
Hi, this is Mark Erda. Thank you for the opportunity. I have been floating the idea and trying to put together the idea of moving this election back from its April date to a more traditional November date. Okay, I've written to several of our state legislators behind this, and I'd like to put an effort behind it. I think the muscle memory's there, and we give people plenty of time to organize and for local media get to meet the candidates by moving it back.
Does anyone have any comments about that? Opinion?
Excellent idea. And I think that I've heard a lot of good things from a few people saying higher up than I am in the party, saying that a few state legislators are considering this.
We don't know any more about which ones or.
Well, I personally wrote Senator Ellman, Representative Rohr, and also Representative Steva Murray, okay? And have heard back, you know, from Representative Rohr's chief of staff, but I would appreciate us getting the momentum going forward, because this is the time to make this happen. And I really do believe it holds tremendous benefits. One of the problems that happened, in my opinion, in this most recent election was it was such a contentious election. It lasted so long that the people in the township organizations were really worn, okay? The process really couldn't start effectively until like early in January, okay? And as first-time candidates, even though we were supremely prepared by Diane, okay, it was quite a challenge to get everything going. To have more time would also allow better time to vet candidates, and also try to avoid the big lesson, I think, at least in my municipal campaign, is we had too much fratricide. I mean, when we end up, you know, not electing Allison by
James just sent a note.
You know, so hopefully.
Mark?
Yes.
When would be the first possible date that could be moved up?
Well, we wouldn't want to move it until, you know, we would want to move it into 2023. So that puts you in, you know, the next mayoral cycle. It puts you into the next council, you know, in terms of things that's going on. Most things in life I've discovered are easy to move back, hard to move forward. And we have enough time, but we need to get that critical momentum pushed on this idea, because actually almost everybody I've talked to, save one person who pointed out that this was moved on purpose to try to keep nonpartisan elections, you know, nonpartisan. But as the last election clearly shows, that's silly. Okay, when you have a NAPER PAC, when you have the things that you're seeing in the marketplace today, this idea that we're going to keep this nonpartisan is silly. So let's do the right thing. Let's get more voters involved. Let's get people involved. Bring them out. Give them the time. Let the candidates have 6 months to get organized and get their message out, and not have to just, you know, have a chance to knock on those doors. Okay, it's not going to cost any more. And I'll tell you right now, people don't think about voting in April. They just don't. It's not in their muscle memory. But you move this to November, they're going to go, oh, it's November. We're going to do. Plus, you have to think about the candidates. I plead. You remember what February was like? Do you? It's the middle of the campaign right now. We were in February. You remember it? It was snowy. It was cold. It was horrible. We had a few nice weeks. Could you imagine the transformed landscape if instead of working through the winter, you're working through the summer and the fall? The opportunity to meet people, everything is in the open. You know, the benefits are huge. I don't see any downside, but this is the group that I need to find the energy to make it go forward, particularly with the effectiveness of, I see my dear friend Ashfact here. You know, I look to my friend Ashfact, I look to you, the Ms. McGuire and your organization, you guys, Barb, this is the core. Let's make this happen. We need to bombard those people right now with the idea that we need to move this election, and it's in the best interest of voter turnout. It's not going to cost any more. It's going to cost less, and it's going to be better for everybody. Okay, I'm done preaching. Paul.
Thank you, Mark. I think that's definitely something we can carry forward. I do see in the chat that Maury has informed us that 2 Democratic candidates won trustee positions in Winfield and with
Winfield
one
Township.
Winfield Township. And with 1 progressive Republican, there is a majority for progress. So that is awesome. Thank you, Maury. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Erica tells us that Reed McCollum says postcards are the gateway drug to activism. Okay, so we know a lot of people who've done postcards, and I think the combination of the pandemic and exhaustion from November, another factor in the difficulty in April. Postcards were the people's drug of choice in many situations in this election. I see something about fundraising here. There's a little bit of a conversation about it, but Ilse put it in first, I think. Do you want to say some more about that, Ilse?
Yeah, I think the only reason I said summer would be a better idea is because, well, first with the pandemic, it made it tough for us to fundraise, right? We couldn't have many events. But the other thing, it was just, you're so busy during an election cycle. And most of us also have full-time jobs and, when we had free time, we wanted to get out and, try to get, doing lit drop. We didn't do a lot of knocking on doors, but lit drop. That it might be better to fundraise as an organization in the summer, and then we can support our candidates by giving them an actual budget, rather than everybody come in with not having a budget. I just felt like that might be a better option in the future.
Certainly would have a positive impact on new candidates.
Yeah.
That because speaking from the perspective of a new candidate, there are so many things you don't appreciate until you don't have them, and you're in the thick of the campaign. So that could that actually, I think, is a part of a larger conversation about building the grassroots. And whether it's election season or not, which, the further out you are from elections, the more concentrated you are on, building interest among voters, not necessarily specifically to a particular campaign, but getting people interested and engaged in the electoral process. So I think that is something that we can talk about some more. Build the habit of voting every year. You snowshoed to a few homes. Did you, Diane Hewitt? Okay, is it Mary? Hi, so you are, can you talk about your comment here?
Sure. My name is Mari, and so I moved out here from Cook County not too long ago, and it just was very obvious to me that, when they say the GOP has, entrenched, they just tip a domino and it all falls into place. And I really think that we have the potential to do that. There's so much momentum. There's so much enthusiasm for this swing area in general. And I know that we're generations behind, we're behind, but we have the infrastructure, we have the technology, we have smart people on this call. So I think it just takes a little coordination and a little bit of making sure that all the hands are kind of talking to each other, and it can really make a big difference. It was really discouraging to see all of these Milton Township GOP signs pop up in unison, and you know, I didn't see any of our signs really placed strategically. And I know signs don't make a difference, but it does help feel like we're part of a cause in some way. So that's just all I was saying is with my comment. So thanks for inviting me here.
Thank you.
Flo, can I
Yeah.
jump in for a second?
Sure.
I like what Mari had to say. Signs do have an impact. I really believe that, because you noticed them when the Republicans all get out there, and you know what weekend they do it. And that's part of what LTDO has been working on, is trying to figure out the placement of them, writing down the addresses so that we can put forward a concerted effort. And as far as the postcards go, you know, did they work? Did they not? It's the only chance we had. And I think that it was a great try. I don't know if we can statistically tie anything to the postcards, but what we should be proud of is, yeah, the Republicans may have been more prepared and entrenched and whatever, but we made them spend out the nose this time. They had to put money into every race. And when you make them do that, it makes them question, oh my God, we got to raise more money. And we were doing it all grassroots. And as we start chipping away at these Republican things, the Republicans are asking more and more money from their donors, usually large donors. And the large donors are they're going to start throwing up their hands if we continue to take little by little back of DuPage County. And so I think maybe we didn't do everything we wanted to this election or November, but we've made a really big impact, because we used to just give it up. 8 years ago in the township races, I don't know who's got those statistics, but there were a lot of them. We didn't even run people. We couldn't get people to run. And this year we had everybody. We were running for almost everything we could, and it made it a competitive thing. We weren't just putting our name on the ballot, we were actually working it. So even though we might not have had the greatest outcome in all these races, we made them work for what they had to do. They're going to have to continue to work, and we're going to continue to chip away.
Thank you. So just one, yeah, let's give her a lot of these. Finally, I would say who was it? Lisa Rose suggested that we pay more attention to shoring up our vote by mail capabilities in the county. We certainly know that those of us who take our civic engagement seriously are really eager to vote by mail, vote early. And we certainly did see that the tabulation of those votes had a great impact on the final results of the elections. So thank you all. The next section of our event tonight is to give people an opportunity to talk in smaller groups.